From Team Target. All the best to everybody at iRacing Brazil.
It's going to be Silvestro, and I hope all the iRacers in Brazil are having a lot of fun on iRacing.
Hi, I'm Justin Wilson. Want to say hello to all the iRacers down in Brazil. Hope you have fun, enjoy the racing, take it easy.
Hey, I'm Wyatt Gooden, and iRacing Brazil, awesome league. You guys are great, cool league.
Quero mandar um abraço aí pro pessoal do iRacing Brasil. Continue jogando aí.
Aí galera, eu sou o Hélio Castro Neves, fique ligado no iRacing Brasil. Vamos lá, Brasil!
Vamos lá.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third round of the 16th Street Racing League from Richmond International Raceway. This track is the shortest track that these drivers will go to all season long. It is 0.75 miles in length. There's not that much banking, and we're under the lights this evening for what will be a truly spectacular race. 160 laps of fast, high-pitched action as we start one of 3 oval races in a row. Next week, we'll go to Twin Wind Motegi. The week after, we'll go to Phoenix International Raceway. And after the speed, the raw epicness that was Homestead, now we're into a phase of the season where these drivers on the ovals are going to have to demonstrate their driver skill. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Will Vincent, unfortunately, Aaron Likens isn't here. So Dave Judson from the Will and Dave Show has stepped in to help me on commentary today. Dave, before I go any further, in qualifying, one of the guys that we thought was going to be right at the front, Martin Miller, he took it easy in his first lap. His second lap, he hit the wall. He is going to be starting from the very rear of the field.
Yes, well, very unfortunate situation for Martin. Try to play a little different strategy by taking it easy and then smack the wall off that tricky turn 2, and that's going to end up costing him. It's going to be very interesting to see if he can pass 28 other cars to get up to the front.
Now, this track is incredibly difficult for the drivers. It arguably is, along with Phoenix, the hardest of the ovals that we're going to go to all year. Yes, Indy is Indy. Yes, you're going to have some difficult tracks over the course of the season, but the difficult thing is, here, there is zero room for error. You make an incident out of turn 2, it's game over. You get loose out of turn 4, it's game over. And for the 30 cars who's made that trip here today, they really are going to have to be on their toes all race long.
Yeah, well, this track is so difficult because these laps click off so fast. In a blink of an eye, you've already completed a lap. So it really takes a lot of mental focus to, keep where you're going and stay off those aprons. And in my opinion, turn 2 is going to be the trouble spot tonight because that outside wall comes up and can bite you so fast. Before you even realize it, you're already in the wall, and you might have taken 3 other guys with you.
Let's run through your starting grid. And surprising out front, you've got 3 guys who we thought were going to be in the top 10, but have got themselves into the top 3 positions on the grid. Tim Holgate scoring pole position in the number 6 car. Joe Branch will line up alongside him in row number 1. James McClure starting in the 3rd position. Matt Cook alongside him in row number 2. Christopher Demerit in the inside of row number 3, and Courtney Taylor on the outside. Joshua Chin on the inside of row 4. Matt Lambertson on the outside. And then row 5, John Portek and Niles Anders. The rest of the qualifying times will be up on your screen momentarily. And the championship leader, Tim Holgate, starting this race from the best position possible, pole position.
Yeah, well, he's carrying some good momentum into this race tonight. First is definitely a good spot to be. Panther Racing doing an excellent job locking down the first 3 spots on the grid. So Tim's looking good so far, but 160 laps, a lot can happen.
And of course, by winning the last race at Sebring, as is the case for all the races this season, the 16th Street Racing League donates $5 to the winner's charity of their choice. $5 from the last race, that goes to Orphan Secure. And of course, this is the second race of the iRaceForLife.org Oval Championship. For more information about iRace for Life and how you can raise money for charity by racing on iRacing, head over to iRaceForLife.org. This race also brought to you by the Will and Dave podcast. 4 p.m. Eastern on Friday. It is live and exclusive on Glacier TV. Also available on iTunes. And Dave, this is probably the most professional you and I are going to talk in months today.
Yes, well, we have to, because 16th Street League demands it. It's such a great league to run in that there's no way for us to be silly. Fridays are to be silly. This is totally serious. And I'm really looking forward to a great race with 29 of some of the best guys on all of iRacing running tonight.
So the guys are on their warm-up laps now. You get 2 warm-up laps here at Richmond. Because the track is less than 1 mile in length, the pace car will make 2 journeys before allowing the cars to rip themselves loose for 160 laps. Guys to pay attention to in this race, you got to talk about your top 3 cars. Tim Holgate, Joe Branch, James McClure. The Panther guys are really on it this weekend. Keep an eye out for Matt Cook in that number 66 LX racing machine. He has been phenomenally quick, winning the transfer race a little bit earlier on. Keep an eye out for Joshua Chin as well. He had a good race in the transfer race. John Porzik in that number 27 Will and Dave car. He is, well, Dave's pick to win this race. But also you've got the likes of Niles Anders, Neff Friarg, and a couple of people down the field, Randy Crosno, and of course starting in last position, Martin Miller. Can he come through the field, come from 29th spot, and take victory here in this race? The pace car is going to make its first trip down towards pit road to get this race underway. Round number 3 of the 16th Street Racing League is green. Holgate gets squirty off the start. Backs the field up. And I tell you what, Matt Cook's been able to get past 1 car already. I'm not quite sure what happened to James McClure, but he has fallen well back here. And he's under attack right now from Christopher Demericus that worked themselves down into turn number 3 for the first time. So a bad start there, as also Joshua Chin gets past James McClure.
Big wreck, Will.
And we've got a huge wreck. The caution is out, and that is a huge crash. Al Nagy involved in that. I see about 7 or 8 cars involved there, and it all started on the exit of turn number 4. You've got Ron Mayer Jr. in the last lap motorsports car involved. Kerry Bettenhausen involved. You've got Terry Mattinson, Neff Friarg, all involved in that, and just trying to back it down to where it really started. And I think that it was
Porzik.
Yeah, Porzik getting sideways out of turn number 3 and 4, and he actually got sideways out of 1 and 2 as well. That made it 3 wide with Trost in the middle, and Niles Anders on the outside. On the inside line, he got loose again, and that's what caused the incident. Neff Friarg getting turned sideways, Ron Mayer Jr. getting turned sideways. I think Eric Davis just made it through, and he had that secondary impact as well. Terry Mattinson out of the race. You've got Al Nagy involved in that, and carnage at the start of this race. And we always expect a big one at Richmond, Dave. It came really early.
Yeah, I think some guys were really getting hot under the collar after that start. I think James McClure took it really easy, and it choked up that whole inside line. And then you had Porzik get loose in 3 and 4. before. It caused a huge chain reaction crash, which just caught up so many guys. You come up on these wrecks so fast, if you haven't already started slowing down almost before you see it, you're in it. And luckily for Martin Miller, he was so far back he could just lay on the brakes, and doesn't look like he hit anything, luckily for him. So he gets the benefit of passing, it looks like, at least 8 or 9 cars here. So that's definitely going to help his quest to get up to the front.
Pit road is open. A couple of guys have taken that option. Brian Simpson, Kevin Kress, Nell McBride, Mark Schutte, Tim Miller, Ray Kingsbury, David Tockrider, Matt Kingsbury, Kerry Bettenhausen, all taking a service. Nefriag is on pit road. Terry Matinson on pit road as well. So these two guys, and Nefriag, of course, after that great race at Homestead where he ran out of fuel but still came home 5th, he was looking for something better on a track which he loves. That 04 car is on pit road getting some repairs very early on. Ron Mayer Jr. is out of the race. Terry Matinson, a lot of damage to him, and Al Nagy's finally been able to get his car onto pit road. Doesn't look as though Nagy has too much damage, but he is going to be scored 1 lap down, and that is not where you want to be early on in this race.
No, well, definitely not. It's going to be really hard to make up laps here at Richmond. So a lot of these guys, unfortunately, are going to just have to hope for some more carnage and more attrition to try to even get in the top 15. Right.
So we will run through your top 10. Holgate is your race leader as the lights are still on the iRacing.com first safety car. Joe Branch in second. Matt Cook is up to third. Courtney Terrell in fourth. Christopher Demerit in fifth. Joshua Chin sixth. James McCloy in seventh. Matt Lamberton in eighth. Niles Anders ninth. And then Brandon Troes runs out your top 10. Pausek is still going on. It doesn't look as though he got any damage from that incident. It just looked as though that it was his right rear tyre that clipped that of Nefriag, which caused that huge chain reaction, and confirmed the guys who had scored laps down: Al Nagy, Terry Matinson, Nefriag, and Ron Mayer Jr. as Terry Matinson brings his car back out onto the racetrack. You got Matt Kingsbury getting a second service to his machine as well, and Kerry Bettenhausen has brought his car back onto pit road. But it does look as though Terry Matinson is not really able to do anything with his race car. I expect him to pull that back into pit road, and that will be his day done. Borsek's got himself a little bit of damage to report there, Dave.
Yeah, well, I'm taking a look at his front wing real close. It looks like the driver's side left front is crinkled a little bit. I don't know if he hit pit road. Probably not, because they would have changed that out. And then I'm looking at Dave Jinks. He's got some rear wing damage. So we're going to have to look for some of these guys. Hopefully their cars keep going in a straight line, because sometimes you get some damage like that and you're not able to control it when the green flag comes out for a second time. And unfortunately, Al Nagy's damaged too much. He's out.
Lights are off on the pace car. Al Nagy retired from the race. Guys, it is a double fire restart here. All the short tracks have double fire restarts. Back to green flag racing. Cook is the one that gets himself a little bit sideways this time by as the green flag is back out. Cars going back down into turn 1. Can they make it a lap? As James McCloy's got Matt Lamberton on his outside. It's very close racing as Niles Anders is down to the inside of Lamberton as they work themselves through turn number 3 and 4. They will complete a green flag lap here. Lamberton looking back down to the inside of Niles Anders, doing the cut under as they come down into turn number 1 and 2. Anders left out to dry, and Pausek is attacking him. We got ourselves some nice racing in the mid package. Chuck Eisenberg going past Dave Jinks here. It does look as though that damage is hurting him as he's pinned on the outside line. And also Eric Davis gets passing in the Banshee Auto Sports car. But out front, it is still Tim Holgate leading the way. It's now Matt Cook up into the second position. Joe Branch is falling down into third. Courtney Terrell still runs in the fourth position. Christopher Merritt rounds out your top 5. But a cleaner start there. Cook got himself a little bit sideways, and that is one thing that we're going to have to pay attention to over this race day. As the fuel gets lighter, if you don't pit, then you're going to be a lot more squirrely on those restarts.
Yeah, well, these guys got to keep their setups pretty loose so that they can continue to turn through the corners later on in the run, and that really hurts them on these restarts. So like you were saying, with low fuel later on in the runs and later in the race, we could see some pretty interesting restarts.
Got ourselves a little bit of a breakaway out front. Tim Holgate is leading by 4 tenths of a second over Matt Cook. But Matt Cook has been able to get himself a 6 tenths of a second advantage over Branch as Taylor goes past him, moving himself up into the third position. So at number 18, IMS radio car is up into a podium spot right now. Demerit behind him, also going past Joe Branch. And that is the thing here on this racetrack. If you lose momentum, you lose it incredibly quickly, as the Merit is now going to take that inside line down into turn number 1 and 2. Joshua Chim also going to go down to the inside, and I see a little bit of smoke there, but everyone is through okay for the time being. Joe Branch moving himself down into the 6th position. Looks like that Miller has got himself a little bit of rear wing damage, as Joe Branch is going to go back down to the inside of Joshua Chin, and he will complete that pass through turn number 2. Some good racing towards the front of the field, but Matt Cook is reeling in Tim Holgate in that battle for the race lead. The 6th car of Tim Holgate, championship lead, as the caution is back out.
Dave Jinks with the rear wing damage, like I was talking about, probably got a little too loose. Car wasn't behaving the way he wanted it to. He smacked that turn 2 wall, and I think he hit Martin Miller and spun him around. Don't think he hit oh yeah, he hit the front wall, or the front end of the car with the wall, so we'll have to see if he can continue.
And that is always a thing if you're trying to move yourself from the rear of the field to the front, as Martin Miller was trying to do after that a really tough qualifying for him. Then that is always the risk that you take running in the pack. And Martin Miller, I'm having a look. I'm not sure, he might actually be able to get some repairs to that race car, but it looks as though he's going to get himself a tow and bring it back down onto pit road. Let's see who is the taker for pit road. We're working ourselves under the 2nd caution of the day. Holgate stays out, Cook stays out, Terrell stays out. Joe Bryant is the first of the guys to pit from the front 10. And it looks as though that Brandon Trost is coming onto pit road, as well as is Kevin Crest, Neil McBride, and the Kingsburys. David Stockrider, Mark Shooty, Tim Miller, all coming onto pit road. For Joe Bryant, it's going to cost him quite a lot of positions. For the guys towards the rear of the field, Dave, you always want to get fresh tyres and top up the fuel when you can.
Absolutely. Well, if you're that far back, I mean, we still got 22 cars left in the lead lap, but a lot of strategy can be played. You got 20 laps of fuel out of the tank already. Only 61% of the fuel available in the 16th Street League races. So, honestly, surprised more guys up front didn't pit, because sometimes this race tends to go green flag for a while after a couple of incidents. So these guys in the back that pitted right now might be in good shape, have an extra 20 laps of fuel. You never know, somebody wrecks when they get to stay out and the other guys have pitted. You never know what could happen.
And of course, that is the thing that these drivers need to bear in mind. Historically, we always have a couple of cautions early on in a short track race like this, and we have that long green flag period, and we're working ourselves right now on a lap number 20 of 160 here at Richmond International Raceway. So, I mean, 2 cautions very early on, and let's not forget, we have ourselves a number of guys scored laps down or out of the race already. Just 22 cars out of the 29 who started still scored on the lead lap. So we'll be into that phase of the race very soon that people realise that you've got to think about the long goal. Think about getting yourself to the end of the race. Think about getting yourself a nice haul of points in the bag, especially for those guys who are, had to run in the transfer races. People, for example, like Matt Cook, like also Joshua Chim, who's having to race in the transfer races until after Motegi to get himself into that top 25, get themselves locked in. But the guys who right now are struggling in the points thing, Dave, they've also got to be bearing in mind that they could fall outside the top 25. They might have to start running the transfer races.
Yeah, well, it's really important in tonight's race and next week's to try to get the points, and that's probably going to be running through some of these guys' minds. So look for the race to go green for a little while as guys just try to solidify their positions, get a feel for their car on a longer run, and then once we get towards the end, I'm sure we'll see a little more action.
So we are likely going to go back to green flag racing this time by keeping an eye out on the safety car. Do the lights go off? The answer is yes, they do. So Phil's going to line up double file once again. We talked about this before we went on air, day. Double file restarts on the short tracks. Yes, on one hand, it may make the whole caution speed caution thing a little bit more prevalent. However, at the same time, the cars towards the rear of the field, they're not going to be half lap down by the time the leaders get through turn 1.
Yeah, it's really good for competition. If you're in 20th spot and you're still in back straightaway and the green flag comes out, how are you ever going to have a chance to get up there and mix it up? You got the best car in the world and you're never going to make it up if you're that far back. So kudos to 16th Street League to have double file restarts and short tracks.
So Tim Holgate has led every lap of this race, but Cook was ruling him in before the second caution came out. Green flag back in the air, and a good start that time by Terrell as he's able to break away from Demerit. Behind them, it looks as though that Joshua Chin is able to complete that pass on Demerit through turn number 1. James McClure running it way up high as the field stacks up behind him. Right now you've got Porzik, and you've got ahead of him Niles Anders trying to go down to the inside of that 9 car. He'll complete the pass there on James McClure. So McClure going backwards on a restart once again as John Porzik's going to sweep down the inside and complete the position as well. I'm going to have to say, for McClure, he has not been good on the restarts today. The first one, of course, he fell back, 6 positions. This restart, he's fallen back another 3 positions. So McClure, that is something he's going to have to bear in mind as these laps tick off here.
Yeah, well, I think he's being overly cautious, just trying to keep the car on the track, kind of unlike Demerit, who had almost a death wiggle coming across the start-finish line. So I can understand him being a little easy, but he keeps losing spots. He's going to be back there in that bee's nest one of these times during a restart, and things could get ugly. And, man, what a battle between Anders and McClure, teammates for that position. I mean, those guys weren't giving each other anything. And John Porzik in the Will and Dave Show podcast car still running pretty well. I say that he almost hits the apron and jinxed it, I think. He didn't hit anything. He keep going, but, God, I wish I hadn't said anything right there. I think I cursed him again.
And Randy Cross now goes past him. So John Porzik, who started that lap in 8th position, now down into the 13th spot on the racetrack. So he's going to have to regroup, and that's not the first time we've seen Porzik have an issue flipping the apron and getting himself sideways, but this is going to be the battle for the race lead. The gap is down to just 1.5 tenths of a second on the racetrack. Matt Cook all over the rear of Tim Holgate as they work themselves through 3 and 4. Now, it looks like Holgate has got the match of Cook in 1 and 2, but it's 3 and 4 where that number 66 ARX racing car is so strong. And the number 6 car of Tim Holgate, you'll see it right about now as they come down into turn number 3. This is where Cook closes up. The gap is now down to less than 1/10 of a second. Will Cook make the pass? Not down into turn 1 and 2, but he's running a slightly different line right now just to keep himself in that draft. And of course, they've pulled out a 1.2 second advantage over Courtney Tell in that number 18 car. And Cook is hounding to the rear. And I think whilst they're pulling away from Courtney Tell, Cook might be content to sit behind. However, as we get closer to working ourselves through lap traffic, or if Courtney Tell starts reeling them back in, then I think we'll see Cook making the move.
Well, having raced Matt Cook last season in the IndyCar Fixed Series Championship, I know he likes to ride for a while. If it helps the front guys break away, he's very content to sit behind and help break away so he can make it a 1 or 2 car battle. So look for him to stay put for right now, get a feel for his car behind Holgate for a while, maybe see where Holgate's strengths and weaknesses are. Look for him to pounce a little later, or if lap traffic allows him to take advantage of a mistake.
And they are starting to come towards a little bit of lap traffic. That's going to be Tim Miller in the number 91 car. We currently have ourselves a total of 22 cars scored on the lead lap. As Cook is going to, no, he's not going to slide it back in line. And that is a little bit of heads-up racing there by Matt Cook. He did not want to make it potentially 3 wide. But again, he's just poking that car down to the inside saying, hey, I know I'm there. He might get a chance this time, though. And he might just be able to. No, he wasn't. He wasn't quite close enough. He always clipped there, the apron coming out of turn 2. But he's going to go back down to the inside now. The battle for the race lead. Will Cook get the pass complete? The answer is yes. We've got ourselves a new race leader here at Richmond.
Matt Cook took advantage of that little slip up by Holgate. Luckily, he didn't hit the front wing on the back of his car. No damage. Able to make the pass, and man, he drove away by half a second. Almost Vettel-esque, pulling out such a huge gap in such a small amount of time.
I tell you what as well, I'm having a look at Tim Miller, and it is horrible. Once you get yourself into traffic here, it is non-stop and relentless. You've got to be happy to run that outside line as Eisenberg that almost runs into the rear of Tim Miller as now Porzik sitting past Model. And now McBride is on pit road, so he's having to make an unscheduled pit stop here. I'm wondering if he's got any damage. We'll come back to have a look at in a moment. But I tell you what, it's a great battle right now. The 19 car of Matt Lambertson. We have a woe moment there, and it looks as though everyone is still the 24 car. So we'll get you an update on what happened to that car in just one moment. But I was saying that Niles Anders and Matt Lambertson, they really have been battling. Oh, sorry, it's Cook. It looks as though it is, David Stockrider. I take that back. David Stockrider in the 44 car has hit the wall, and he was able to keep it going. And I think he just clobbered the wall there out of turn 2. He stayed green, Dave, but that is the issue if you're running it through turn 1 and 2 side by side, because a bit like Texas, they really just ends the corner there, and you've got to be careful of the outside retaining wall.
Yeah, that corner gets so tight, it just closes in on you in a hurry. And if you're not on the bottom and you're running side by side, if you almost have to let the guy inside you by, or hope that he can hold that car low, or you're going to smack the wall like Stockrider did. Unfortunately, that puts him in the pits and already 3 laps down because of it.
Yeah, and he will likely be out of the race now. McBride, by the way, is pretty much 5 laps down now. So it looks as though he did have an issue. I'm just going to try and get confirmation of what happened to him. And he actually just brought his car onto pit road. So I'm not sure what the issue is. We'll try and find out after the race what happened to that number 41 machine of Nell McBride, representing Club UK and Ireland.
Caution is out.
Yellow is out. Once again, our 3rd caution of the day. And I see Chuck Eisenberg there in the number 87 car. And it looks like he was going to try and make a pit stop. And then he missed pit entry, caught the apron, and that's what spun the car around. Caution comes out for that. It looks like it's a single car incident. Our 3rd caution of the day, Dave.
Yeah, well, it looks like Chuck was having some connection issues, and he was going to pull it in the pit road. And unfortunately, made a mistake, missed the pit entrance, and spun the car out. Had some damage that couldn't have helped. So, unfortunately, another caution out. Cook was not looking forward to that because he had a heck of a lead, and they're all coming to pit road. Well,
all coming into pit road. We are in that window that everyone will make that journey onto pit road. Cook is in, Holgate is in, Terrell is in, Chin is in, Demerit, Anders, Lamberton, Davis. They are all making that journey onto pit road. Let you know if anyone is staying out, and it doesn't look as though out of the top 20 anyone is. So the battle is going to be that race off pit road, and Cook is into his pit box. Now Holgate is into his pit box. Of course, Holgate has the final pit stall. Who is going to make it out in front? The answer is going to be Cook. And behind him, they are all swarming. And a couple of cars are very long. But Cook is out at first. And it's Holgate, then Terrell, Chin. So they kind of come in and come out in the same place. They merit 5th. And then Lamberton was able to get ahead of Anders by the look of it. So that's your biggest change in the top 10. No real drama there on our first set of pit stops.
now the only thing that I saw was unfortunately James McClure slid through his pit box. Another mistake. He's got to be frustrated with himself already with that. Probably lost a couple spots. And some of those guys in the back that pitted on the lap 20 caution probably gained a few spots over some of the guys that hadn't pitted because they didn't need to take as much fuel.
Yeah, I'm having a look at Joe Branch. He was, of course, one of the drivers. He did come in on the last caution, and he gains a couple of positions. So he moves himself up into the 13th spot. But of course, let's not forget, this is the same Joe Branch who qualified for this race in the 2nd position. And talking about Joe as well, of course, very lucky in many ways. He was lives in Kokomo in Indiana, and huge devastation, of course, happened in the tornado there last week. Of course, our thoughts going out to anyone who was affected by that, but Joe is right in the epicenter of it.
Yeah, good to hear that Joe, luckily him and his family were safe through the storms that blew through last weekend. I know some other guys in Indiana and Illinois didn't fare as well, so glad he did okay, and we're thinking about everybody that got affected by the storms last week. Hopefully they can put things back together as soon as they can and get back to some sort of normalcy.
Run through your top 10. Matt Cook, who scored as your race leader. Tim Holgate 2nd. Courtney Terrell 3rd. Josh Chin in 4th. Christopher Demerit in 5th. Matt Lamberton 6th. Niles Landers 7th. Eric Davis in 8th. James McClure in 9th. And then John Paulsek rounds out your top 10. And we've got 19 cars still scored on the lead lap. Eisenberg has brought his car back out onto pit road, but he's got himself some rear wing damage. Noel McBride has now scored 7 laps down. And your retirees confirmed: Ron Mayer Jr., Neff Riag, Al Nagy, Terry Mattinson, Kerry Bettenhausen. In fact, no, Bettenhausen is still circulating, but 33 laps down. Martin Miller is out of the race. Dave Jinks out of the race. David Stockrider is also out, and Noel McBride is scored multiple laps down as well. Interesting to note that Courtney Tell is driving his car under caution. I'm not sure whether or not he might get himself a slap on the wrist there from race control.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why he's choosing to do that, but we'll see what happens. It will look for something on this restart here. Matt Cook's first time being out lead, see if he waits to go or goes right away. And he's been running a different line than everybody else. He's been kind of almost shortcutting the front straightaway, running a real low line, and that helped him pull away.
Green flag is back in the air, and a big wiggle by Holgate, also by Chin as well. And that is going to give Cook a huge momentum push as they come back down into turn number 1. It is Cook from Holgate, from Terrell, from Chin, from Demerit, from Lambertson. Niles Anders going past Eric Davis there, moving him up a position. Again, it's the mid-pack, and it's a good restart there by McClure as he's side by side with, it's going to be 3 wide perhaps down into turn number 1. McClure on the inside, he gets out of it there, allows Porzik to go past on the outside. Porzik's now going to run around the outside of Eric Davis as well, and they keep in straight lines now. But it was a much better restart. Eric Davis just smacked the wall there, coming out of turn number 4. I'm just having a look back. No, he didn't, but he was running way in the grey there, Dave.
Well, something must have happened to his car because he was very squirrely in 1 and 2. This car's definitely not behaving the way he wanted it to. And kudos to John Porzik, man. Power move on the outside, gained 3 or 4 spots on that restart.
Randy Crossman now looking down to the inside of Davis. Davis is clearly falling back as Joe Branch is going to go past. And also, it looks as though one of the last lap motorsports cars is going to go past him as well. But having a look up front, it is Matt Cook, but he's not been able to get the lead that we expected him to because Tim Holgate is right back there in the second position, just a quarter of a second back. Now, we have seen that Cook is not that good in the first 5 to 6 laps of a run, but once those tyres get up to pressure, that is when I think that we might see Cook putting away just a little bit, as now McBride, it looks like he is now actually out of the race, and he had a moment there with Chuck Eisenberg, and it looks like Eisenberg went down to the inside of him. The two came together, McBride hit the wall, however we stayed green. McBride is out of the race.
Well, with the Banshee guys, especially Matt Cook, they seem to cater their setups to running better near the end once they burn maybe 4 or 5 gallons off. So he's probably just kind of holding on right now. This is when Tim Holgate needs to strike and see if he can make up any ground before Matt pulls away. And it's interesting to note Matt's line. He seems to run even lower. He's running almost qualifying lap lines, staying really low on the yellow line. Most of the other guys have been running out near the wall on the front straightaway. He's in the middle or lower on most laps, and that seems to be to his advantage because he just pulled out another 10th on that lap.
Brandon Trost, by the way, just being passed by Brian Simpson in the number 7 machine. However, you would normally expect if you're running that inside line all the way through the racetrack, then you're likely going to use up more of your tyres, but it's not the case for Matt Cook. It looks like he is okay right now. Holgate is within touching distance, as we've got a car with Chuck Eisenberg who's back on pit road, so it looks like his day is going from bad to worse once again. But Joshua Chin, he is now 2 seconds behind that battle for the race lead, and I have to say it's been a good run there by Joshua Chin in that left turn car, but he's ahead of Christopher Demerit in the Team Velociraptor car, and Chin needs a good result here today on the oval as Courtney Taylor breezes past Christopher Demerit there after what happened to Chin in the last round at Sebring.
Yeah, Chin had the Will and Dave Show podcast curse strike him at Sebring, which is really unfortunate because he had been doing quite well there, and the road courses are his forte. So he can get out of here with a good top 5. That'll definitely solidify his position in the points. But Courtney Terrell looks inside and takes the position. The IMS Productions car looking fast. The winner of the Homestead race up to 3rd position right now, Will.
And we saw Terrell carve his way through the field at Sebring. We saw him move his way through the field at Homestead. That number 18 Team That Racing car really is running beautifully this season. And I talked about how, last season was a good season for Holgate, a good season for Terrell. These two guys, once again, are looking as though they are good contenders in the 16th Street Racing League. Matt Cook, we talked about after 5 or 6 laps coming to the belt, he starts pulling away. The gap is now up to 0.8 of a second over Tim Holgate in that battle for the race lead. Looking down into the pack a little bit more, John Porzik's been able to make a move on Matt Lambertson, moving himself up into the 6th position on the racetrack. And there's a great battle again between Niles Anders and Matt Lambertson. It looks like Anders is going to try and look down to the inside, not quite close enough into turn 1 and 2, and a lot of history a lot of racing between Lambertson and Niles Anders over the years.
Yeah, these guys have been battling against each other ever since I've been on iRacing. I've been here since 2010, so no love lost between these guys. They both respect each other, but they run each other hard every chance they're near each other.
Niles Anders in that number 99 National Guard car, and then you have got Matt Lambertson in the number 19 Boy Scouts of America machine. And as they worked themselves through lap traffic, Lambertson was able to get himself a couple of car length advantage. Behind them, Randy Krosner, he started this race, let's not forget, down in the 18th position. He has now scored in the top 10, been able to get himself past James McClure, now running in that 9th spot, and last time by was able to run a lap about a tenth of a second faster than Anders and Lambertson. So it does look as though that Randy Krosno, who had bad luck here at Homestead Miami Speedway, is in the top 10 and is closing up potentially to battle for a top 5 finish.
Yeah, Randy's doing pretty good. Survived a lot of the carnage in the first few restarts. Got himself in the top 10. Definitely looking for more.
Lap number 72 of 160 here. The laps tick off incredibly quickly as the number 21 car is going to go down a lap to Matt Cook. That is Matt Kingsbury, who was scored in the 17th position. Now just 16 cars scored on the lead lap. And as we get into longer and longer green flag runs, Dave, this is where traffic becomes more of an issue. It's not like at some tracks where you just need to have a car that works well up front. You need to have a car that constantly works well in traffic, in clean air, regardless of what the fuel level is on the car. And if Cook's car doesn't handle that one in traffic, or we could see Tim Holgate coming back to the fold. Courtney Taylor, by the way, is running laps right now about 2/10 of a second slower than the leaders. Lap on lap has now scored 4.5 seconds behind your race leaders.
Yeah, Matt Cook's running times in 15.6, Holgate's running 15.7, and Terrell's running 15.8. And we'll go back to your point about running in traffic. Your point of running in traffic, after a while these cars get so spread out, you've almost got like a conveyor belt of cars going around. There's really no brakes at all, so definitely handling important in traffic if you want to contend for the victory.
John Porzak was able to get past Joshua Chin. Christopher Demeritt is also able to do the same. Joshua Chin way up high there in the number 93 car. And it looks as though Niles Anders has also been able to get himself past Matt Lambertson to move the 99 car up into the 7th position on the racetrack. Your top 10, Matt Cook with now have a 1.3 second advantage over Tim Holgate, working himself through some lap traffic low of Brian Simpson. That will cost him a little bit on this lap as Eisenberg's bringing his car back onto pit road. Cook might be held up a little bit, and he's got 3 cars battling for position ahead of him. Tim Holgate is scored in the 2nd position, was able to take a 10th of a second off that last lap. Courtney Tell in 3rd, Porzak 4th, Demeritt 5th, Joshua Chin in the 6th position, Niles Anders 7th, Matt Lambertson in 8th, Randy Krosner in 9th, and then Joe Branch rounds out your top 10. This is what I was talking about for Cook. Brandon Trost is battling hard at that number 25 car of Ray Kingsbury, and Cook is right there now. He's going to have to take them one at a time, but be patient, and this could really allow Tim Holgate to come back into the fold, as Matt Cook is all the way down on the inside of Brandon Trost. He'll be able to get past him into turn 1 and 2, but he can't run the line he wants to because the cars ahead of him are also using all of the racetrack, and this is costing Matt Cook now.
Yeah, he's at the mercy of these guys at the tail end of the lead lap. Not only are they battling for spots, but they don't want to go a lap down either. Luckily for Cook, he runs such a low line on the front straightaway, he's not at any disadvantage there. And guys like Kevin Kress are respectful in the position to Matt Cook. So, yeah, he lost a little bit of time, but now Tim Holgate's going to have to deal with all that lap traffic, and he's got 4 cars in between him.
And of course, you always fight. Is Brandon Trost bringing his car to pit road? Is Brandon Trost just hit the wall yet? I think he did hit the wall out of turn number 2 in the 007 car. Yeah, just a light tap of the wall, but it looks like he's bringing his car onto pit road down to 40 miles an hour for him. So Brandon Trost, who was having a good race, has now scored 1 lap down. He's going to go down 2 laps before too long. And the thing is, of course, you always fight to stay on the lead up when it's the leader. As soon as the leader goes past, then generally you're going to accept the fact that you're a lap down, especially with double file restarts, and it means that you're going to be easier, shall we say, when the other cars start passing you.
Yeah, it's not going to matter once the leader gets by you, holding up everybody else. And will John Porzak up the podium position, P4 1:03 past Courtney Terrell. He's flying right now. He's running faster laps than Tim Holgate, but he's got almost 5 seconds to make up. So he's going to need a caution if he wants to get back into this thing right now.
Well, yeah, we are past half race distance now, working ourselves on lap number 88 of 160. And I say, the laps do really tick off here. And that is one of the big differences between, by the way, the short tracks and the intermediate and long tracks. At the short tracks, we're going to use double file restart. At tracks like Auto Club Speedway later on in the season, like Indianapolis, like Homestead, which we've already been to, we're going to run a single file restart. The same will apply to Motegi in 1 week's time. And a different mindset's required there because, of course, on a single file restart, until the last 10 laps of the race, you will basically restart where you were in line. Compare that to on a double file restart, where you automatically go to the rear of the field if you're a lap down. Different mindset involved, Dave.
Yeah, some of these lap guys get in the way, if you want to say, for lack of a better term, on single file starts because, like you said, they line up wherever they were on track. So you could have first place, 2 lap cars, then second place. So you're at their mercy, hoping that they get a good restart. And then sometimes that gives guys opportunities to make passes where they normally wouldn't get them. Because on double file starts, you know, you're surrounded by other guys. So definitely varying strategies. Like here at Richmond, all the lap guys go to the back every restart. So you're only dealing with guys on your lap. Here
by the way, Brandon Trost is out of the race. That tap on the exit of turn number 2 is terminal, and he is done. We have got ourselves now just 11 cars scored on the lead lap. The last one of them is James McClure in that number 9 car. And the complexion of this race really has changed because you had yourselves, 3 Panther Racing guys in the top 3 on the race grid. Now you've got an AROX car scored first. You've got yourself a Panther guy second. You've got yourself a Banshee Autosports car in third. You've got Courtney Tell 4 for Team Lap Racing, Christopher Merritt in 5th for Team Velociraptor. 5 cars, 5 different teams represented in the top 5. Who says one team wins everything in this series?
Yeah, very interesting mix there, Will. If you went strictly by qualifying, you think Panther Racing is going to dominate this thing, but a healthy mix of 5 different teams in the top 5. That's really good to see and shows you how competitive 16th Street League is. In the iRacing Official Series, yeah, sometimes one team kind of has an advantage every now and then, but here at 16th Street League, these guys put everything they got into it, and it's showing in the results right now.
If you add Joshua Chin, who's running in the 7th position right now, you've got yourself 6 different teams represented in the top 10 as we are closing in on lap number 100. Don't forget the Will and Dave show. It is every Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern on Glacier TV. With myself, Will Vincent, that guy over there, Dave Judson, who are the commentators for this race. And Dave, I believe you're with us next week at Twin Ring Motegi as well, while Aaron Likens continues on another one of his autism US tours.
Yeah, well, if all goes to plan, I should be here next week. It's I'm glad that Aaron is out there spreading the word and doing the fight with his book and making people understand autism better. And he's a leading guy in that, and really good for him. If you do join us for the Will and Dave show, we will do a review on this race, and I'm sure we'll probably have some stupid things to say about that and anything else that goes on in auto racing or iRacing. So hopefully you'll be there. We'd like to have more than 12 people listen.
By the way, Christopher Demerit, Niles Anders, Joshua Chin, that battle is hotting up as Matt Lamberton has dropped back actually in that number 19 car. I'm wondering, yeah, he has got some rear wing damage, so I'm wondering what happened to him. But Matt Lamberton has dropped off the pace the last couple of laps and is now scored at the rear end of the lap. And in fact, now he's scored 1 lap down to Matt Cook. And Joe Bryant is going to go down a lap any point soon as well. In fact, this is starting to remind me a little bit of the 2009, the 2009 Richmond race in IndyCar, when you had a lot of guys scored laps down. And it gets a bit confusing because you've got to start thinking, well, okay, who's on my lap? Who am I racing with immediately? Who are the guys a lap down but close to me? Who are the guys a lap ahead of me but close to me on the racetrack? But Demerit, Anders, and Chin, that battle does continue. They're separated by about a second on the racetrack, and Niles Anders is coming onto pit road. We also have Eric Davis, Courtney Terrell, John Porzek, Matt Kingsbury, all on pit road on the same lap. The green flag pit stops here at Richmond. And a lot of guys don't often practice green flag pit stops at Richmond. This is that time where you tell the guys who've done the practice, and they are all in. With big battle we're going to be looking at is between Courtney Terrell and John Porzik. It looks like Porzik is going to be able to get out ahead. Yes, he will indeed be able to get out, as Matt Cook is also on pit road from the race lead. Tim Holgate stays out. No, he doesn't. He comes in this time by, so goes 1 lap longer than Matt Cook. So we've got ourselves a battle all the way up and down the field. Timing and scoring is all over the place right now. But Matt Cook is back out onto the racetrack. Cold tyres, always an issue, as Kevin Chris is on pit road. James McClure is on pit road. It does look as though he might have brushed the pit wall, actually. I'll give you an update on that in a moment, as Anders is back out onto the racetrack. Matt Lamberton on pit road. Joe Branch on pit road. I think Niles Anders might have got himself a penalty, actually, because it looks as though he might be scored a lap down. But Tim Holgate back out onto the racetrack. Where is Cook in relation to Holgate?
Cook takes the lead back from Holgate through 3 and 4,
back.
so he's in the lead.
And the gap is a lot less than it was, so Holgate was able to make up a little bit. And let's not forget, this is the stage of the race where Holgate's car is a little bit better, as Eric Davis ahead of him just brushes the wall there through turn 2. This is the stage of the run where Holgate's car is better than that of Matt Cook. It is all cycled through. Cook is rescored as your race leader. Holgate in second. Joe Branch is on pit road right now, so Cook. John Porzik moves back up into third. Courtney Talent into fourth. Demerit back into fifth. Josh Chin into sixth. Randy Crossley, the last guy in the lead lap, in seventh. Then Matt Lamberton in eighth. Joe Branch in ninth. And Brian Simpson round out your top 10 trouble as Brian Simpson gets clobbered into the wall. Our fourth caution of the day here.
I think it looks like he missed a pit and Chin hit him. And ouch. I'll have to check and see if Chin had any damage. I don't think anyone else hit Simpson, luckily, but man, unfortunate for Chin and Simpson. I'm going to take a look at Chin's car, see if he has any damage.
Yeah, I'm having a look at Brian Simpson. He does slow his car down as if he's trying to get onto pit road. Then he realized he'd missed pit entry, tries to bring his car back onto the racetrack, and Josh Chin had nowhere to go, and Brian Simpson into the wall. And he is going to be classified as out of the race. By the way, Niles Anders is scored 4 laps down. So he must have had himself a speeding penalty of some sort. I'll have a look back to that whilst we are running ourselves under caution. But this is interesting because I think we are just inside the window to make this to the end of the race. And just having a look to see how long that green flag run lasted. I think all of these guys should be good to go to the end of the race now.
Well, if they're not good to the end, this caution is definitely going to help them close that in. And I took a look at Josh Chin, who's currently in 6th place. No damage on the right side of the car, so he should be able to continue. Looks like the Will and Dave Show curse almost struck again for Joshua Chin, who joined us last Friday.
It was lap 52 when they came in. So when they restarted, and they were able to go until about lap 105. So they should all just be good to go to the end. So yeah, they're all good to go to the end. No one really comes onto pit road. So only if they need tyres towards the end of the race will anyone come down. I saw a great strategy by Tim Doyle actually at an ISOWC event here, where he came onto pit road with like 5 laps left to go. Proper NASCAR style, carved himself back through the field. But this is not what Matt Cook would have wanted, because he's starting to eke out that advantage over Holgate once again. And there are a couple of people who are relishing this. John Porzik is going to be scored in a net 3rd position. Yes, it looks like there's a bunch of cars between him and Holgate, but they're all going to have to go to the rear of the field at the moment.
Yeah, well, this is where the double file restart is really going to benefit Porzik in the Will and Dave Show podcast to Lara, because he gets to pass all those cars. Lap cars get sent to the back. He gets lined up right behind Cook, so if Cook gets a restart and Porzik's able to take advantage of it, he'll shoot right to 2nd. And it's since those guys are pretty much teammates, sure they're running similar setups, so Porzik's got a chance to keep up. And if Cook makes a mistake, Porzik could take full advantage of it. And by the way, Porzik might pick to win the race, so we'll see if he makes me look good or not.
And I picked Matt Cook to win this race, so it's on between us two now.
But we got to fight about something every week, whether we're on here or the Will and Dave Show.
Indeed, we do. We'll run through your top 10. Matt Cook, your race leader. Tim Holgate, 2nd. Porzik, 3rd. Terrell, 4th. Christopher Demerit in 5th. Randy Crossley, 6th. Joshua Chin in 7th. Matt Lamberton in 8th. Joe Branch in 9th. and Ray Kingsbury rounds out your top 10. Get this though, that long green flag run means that there's only 7 cars scored on the lead lap. And for people like Joshua Chin, for example, who has struggled over the long runs, do you think maybe he might think, well, realistically, I'm going to get myself a top 10 finish. That means that he's going to be one step closer to locking himself into the top 25.
Well, he's a racer like we all are. He's not thinking about, well, maybe in the back of his mind he's thinking, well, this will be good points, but he wants to finish as high up there as possible. So he's going to go for it and see what he can, he might have made some changes on pit road, add a little wing or anything like that. So we don't know what he has yet, and this is closest to the front as he's been in a while. So sometimes that lights the wick under you a little more. So he's definitely got a chance to get a top 3 or 4 at least. So be a very interesting restart. This restart could win or lose the race for everybody as we go green.
Here we are back to green flag racing, and it was a good start by Cook, a good start by Holgate. Not the start that John Pausick necessarily would have wanted, however, as we're working ourselves now on lap 116 of 160. And I do have to say, 3-4 wide almost there, down into turn 3 and 4. Watch out, guys. They all managed to make it stick. You had Kevin Crest, you had one of the Kingsburys there, and they were going almost 4 wide there, down into turn number 3. You don't want to ever see that at Richmond.
No, 4 wide, that doesn't even work at like Texas and stuff. That's a lot bigger track, so luckily they made it through unscathed. Well, looking at Chris Demerit, he's really pressuring Courtney Terrell for 4th place. Team Velociraptor driver doing pretty well tonight at Richmond.
Yeah, and don't forget, Demerit was very good at the start of the run. He runs high through turn 3 and 4, and Terrell's actually all over the rear of John Pausick. Let's not forget, the Banshee and the Aero X cars have been struggling on the first 3 or 4 laps. So this is now Courtney Terrell's chance to pounce. Terrell is great towards the latter stages of this race. We've seen it time and time and time again. But Holgate still quite close to Matt Cook last time by. Holgate was a tiny bit, almost identical lap times to Matt Cook there. But Terrell versus Pausick's a fascinating battle, and it looks as though that Terrell's just been able to eke out a couple of attempts for an advantage over Demerit for the time being. Joshua Chin is up into 6th, with Randy Cosnay falls down into the 7th position. But for Terrell, I think he's not going to make the pass in the next 2 laps or so. I think Pausick might just be able to start stretching his legs. Yeah, these guys are racing Aero X Banshee guys. Got to dig deep in the next lap or 2, or they're going to start losing them. So a lot of pressure on Holgate and Terrell to try to maintain with these guys and hope for a mistake, and maybe they can get a position. So Matt Cook ekes out that advantage of 4 attempts, almost half a second now on the racetrack. And John Pausick, though, importantly, he is scored a second behind Tim Holgate. So at this stage in the race, he's going to have to start closing down Matt Cook. And we know what the competitive rivalry is between Cook and Pausick. We saw it in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 earlier on this year. Tim Holgate, of course, he wants to get another victory and eke out his advantage over Courtney Terrell. I think that he would have wanted to have got past John Pausick and tried to close up to the rear of Holgate. Let's not forget, Holgate, he fade on the longer green flag runs we've had in this race. So if Pausick catches and passes Holgate, there's also a potential that Terrell might be able to leapfrog Holgate, and that would really shape out the championship picture. Yeah, if this race finishes with a long green flag run, that's definitely going to benefit Pausick, who's shown the speed at the end of the run. Holgate's just going to hope that he can maintain what he has and hope that Terrell doesn't catch up to him, because that's definitely going to have some points implications. Even though we're only 3 races in, every point matters. Every point matters. We talked about already for the guys who are having to run the transfer races. People like Christopher Demerit, people like Joshua Chin and Matt Cook. Every point is vital, and for those guys being scored in the top 10, it's going to be hugely important for them. To give you an update on a couple of drivers, Niles Anders in that number 99 car, as I said, is scored 4 laps down now, and he did have an issue in which he brought his car onto pit road, and I think he did get himself a black flag penalty. And just having a look back, and he sat on pit road for a very, very long time. In fact, no, I think he sped on pit exit. I'm not quite sure, but he's now scored 4 laps down the race, and he ended up having to take a second stop. So that was what the issue was for Niles Anders. It looks like he sped on pit exit and had to make himself a second stop. He got himself a black flag penalty. Holgate's working himself through some traffic right now, but Cook has started to stretch his legs once again. And we saw this earlier on in the day when Cook gets himself that 1 second window. He is gone. And it looks as like Porzing's also been able to eke out an advantage over Christopher Demerit. Now for Terrell, he needs to ensure that he stays ahead of that 144 car, because for him, he wants to minimise the blow that he will get to the championship if Holgate finishes second or even third in the points here today.
Yeah, like we were talking about, every point matters. Got to get every position. End of the season, it could come down to, did you pass a guy or did you hold the spot, you know, in any particular race? So it'll be very interesting to see where these battles come down to. Matt Cook driving away, leading by over a second as he passes Tim Miller, put him another lap down.
Yeah, and there are a couple of guys who have had some very difficult races here. Tim Miller, I mean, unfortunately, he is scored in the 17th position. He is still running, but that guy, he's gotten very used to running the high line here today, because he's had cars passing him left, right, and centre as he's gone down laps repeatedly. It doesn't look as though Tim Miller's had the day he wanted to here.
Yeah, unfortunately for Tim, I think he got caught up in that first lap melee, and the car just hasn't driven the same since, and he kind of just is in the position where he has to hold on and hope for the best.
Lap 135 in the books out of 160, so we're into the closing stages of the 2013 16th Street Racing League Richmond 160. Matt Cook has now got himself a 1.3 second advantage over Tim Holgate, and it went up, in fact, that last time by it went up almost by a tenth of a second, and now they got themselves a little bit of clean air. Porzing's might be able to close in a little bit. Porzing was a little bit unlucky with traffic in that number 27 Will and Dave car over the last couple of laps, but Courtney Terrell has been able to get himself a bit of an advantage over Christopher Demerit. That's the important thing for him. And in fact, Randy Crosney down to the inside of Christopher Demerit, and he will get that pass done to move Randy Crosney up into the top 5. So we went from having 5 different teams represented into the top 5 to just 4 of them. 2 Aero X cars now scored 1st and 5th in the top 5.
Randy Crosney making a nice charge from 18th starting position. Survived all the carnage and get a top 5. If he can maintain that, I know Randy, he'll be very happy with that.
As they work themselves back through turn number 1 and 2, 3 and 4 for your race leaders. Matt Cook, his gap is up to 1.5 seconds. A little bit further down the field, by the way, we have got some great battles going on as Nars Anders is working himself back past Christopher Demerit. Now, that is a real shame for Nars Anders, because he did have a fast car here today. He had an incident at the start of the race where he fell down the field in the transfer race. He was able to get himself back into the top 10 to get himself into the feature race. But Joshua Chin looks like he's going to get himself past Christopher Demerit as they come down into turn 1 and 2. He will easily complete that pass. And for the Velociraptor car, it doesn't look as though it works in the second half of a fuel run very well.
Yeah, the cars get tight on him. Looks like he's pushing out of the corners. More cars in front of him. That's not helping the handling conditions either. So, you know what, though? He's done pretty well having the transfer in from the transfer race earlier today. So I'm sure Christopher's going to be pretty happy that he's still on the lead lap, and he's still battling Chin. So if Chin slips up, 6th place could be his again.
I'll tell you what, I also feel a little bit bad for Joe Branch. Of course, he was caught out a little bit through that cycle of green flag running and the pit stop as well. He fell 1 lap down, but he's holding on to the back of Demerit and Joshua Chin. So if he was scored on the lead lap, this could have been a very different situation for the guy who started on the outside of row number 1. Joe Branch in that number 4 National Guard car. And overall, you have to say, it's been a bit of a mixed day for that National Guard car. National Guard team, even.
Yeah, they look very strong in qualifying, but then as the race goes on, they have the speed early, and then it definitely seems to slip off as Holgate's been showing, falling almost 2 seconds behind Cook now, and Cook's doing his best Vettel impersonation, driving away when it counts, and leading by 2 seconds, and just trying to navigate the lap traffic. As long as nothing goes wrong, race should, and I emphasize should, be his.
Indeed, unless we get ourselves a late race caution, we don't want to curse that one. Porzing's though, he's not been able to close up to the rear of Tim Holgate, as we potentially thought he might have been able to. Now, let's not forget, Holgate is no slouch in the lead National Guard car, the number 6 machine. So, I mean, Holgate, once again, asserting himself in the championship battle. He was the championship leader coming into this race. We didn't think, before we saw qualifying, that Holgate would have a chance. He qualified on pole position, He led the first part of this race. Matt Cook led the second part, but really not a slouchy drive at all on that number 6 machine.
No, Tim Holgate really turned it on at the end of last season, finishing second in the points to Young O, who won everything. So it kind of seems to reason that since Young O was unable to race with us this season, that Tim Holgate would take the throne, and he's been doing so well. He's been doing well so far. As long as this plays out, second place will be good for him in the championship. As Matt Cook had some bad luck in Sebring, so he's really not involved yet in the championship battle.
I tell you what, Ray Kingsbury, Tim Holgate going down to the inside of him. Some very loose race cars late on in the running here, and no one wants to see a late race caution. The one person that, of course, doesn't want to see a caution is going to be Matt Cook. It's cross note into the wall! Cross note into the wall, Kingsbury! That caution has come! And that was Randy Crosnow, and I think what happened was he just got way up into the... No, he had an incident actually down at turn number 1 and 2. I think he hit the wall there, and then he was trying to bring the car onto pit road. The handling broke on that race car, and he is out of the race. Yeah, Crosnow hit the wall out of turn number 2, and then he tried to bring that car back down. He went up into the wall, smacked the one in 3 and 4, came back down the racetrack. What goes up must come down. Hit Kingsbury. Randy Crosnow's day is done.
Wow, the race really came unglued for Randy. That turn 2 bit another driver. He tried to bring it back to pit road, couldn't turn it, smacked the turn 3 and 4 wall, and unfortunately took Kingsbury out with him. Very unfortunate incident. Randy was doing quite well. One of the few cars left on the lead lap, but now he's going to be out of the race. And there's only 6 cars left on the lead lap. I'm surprised nobody came in to get some tires here. Actually, Josh Chin going to get some tires. We'll see if it can make a difference with a couple laps to go.
He's going to roll the dice. Narthan is on pit road as well. And this is going to be 3-lap shootout, 2-lap shootout. So a very late race caution. And the one thing that this late race caution does, it really tests the nerves of these drivers. I talked about this earlier on in the broadcast. Light fuel, worn tires, anything can happen. And we've seen it before where a car just gets onto the power a little bit too early, melee behind them. Matt Cook is going to be sweating right now in that number 66 car.
Yeah, Matt's heart's got to be pounding a little faster than it was earlier in the race, because this restart will make or break everything. If he doesn't get a good start or he gets squirrely, Holgate, Porzik, Terrell, even Demerit are going to try to swamp him. And you never know, Josh Chin with new tires, he could have be shot like a bat out of hell. Anything could happen these last couple laps. But as long as Cook gets a good restart, he's going to drive away from him.
It's quite a Meatloaf song. Don't forget, by the way, the 16th Street Racing League Oval Championship is brought to you by iRaceForLife.org. The 16th Street Racing League are donating $5 to the winners charity after every single race. For more information as well about how you can make a difference just by running on iRacing, head over to iRaceForLife.org. Your top 5 drivers with 4 laps now left to go. Matt Cook, your race leader. Tim Holgate second. John Porzik in third. Courtney Tarrant in fourth. Christopher Demerit rounds out your top 5. We're on lap 157. I think we've got the 2 to green this time by. We're going to have ourselves a 2-lap shootout.
Man, the pressure is going to be on Matt Cook right here. New to the 16th Street League, obviously not new to iRacing. Over 6,000 I rating. Many, Open Series champion last season. Finished second overall in the Fixed Series. Knows his way around the Indy cars quite well, but he's never been in this position with so many quality drivers before. We'll see if that affects him or if he blocks that out of his mind and goes and takes his very first 16th Street win tonight at Richmond.
Of course, he was in a similar position in the iRacing.com Pocono 400 back in July, a late race restart. He held on to that one beautifully. Check and see the lights go off on the pace car. Indeed, they do. It will be a 2-lap shootout. I tell you what, don't blink, because this is going to be a very fast race end. It will be over and done in about 35 seconds after that green flag comes out. Eric Davis comes out of pit road. He will stay on, he has scored 3 laps down, so he'll stay 3 laps down, and he will likely get himself past Randy Crosnow once the green flag comes back out. And it's going to be a crazy, crazy run to the finish. Matt Cook on the inside of row number 1. Tim Holgate alongside him on that front row. John Porzik in third. Courtney Tell in fourth. Christopher Demerit in 5th, and then Joshua Chin in 6th. They are the cars scored on the lead lap. Joe Bryant has got it easy. He's in 7th. The green flag back in the air. Wiggle from Cook, but that's no issue for him. Holgate 2nd. John Porzick doesn't get the restart he wants. He's in 3rd. And Courtney Talent in 4th. Demerit in the 5th position. Chin, let's not forget, he's got fresh boots. He is in the 6th spot, but it doesn't look as though he's able to do anything with it. This time by the white flag in hand. One more lap to go for Matt Cook as he storms it down into turn number 1. Tim Holgate is close behind him. Could Holgate get the run through turn number 3 and 4? I don't think he's going to be close enough. They're going to come through turn 3 and 4. Holgate's got it flat to the floor, but Matt Cook is going to win the 3rd round of the 16th Street Racing League. Holgate comes home in 2nd. John Porzick comes home in 3rd. Courtney Talon in 4th. Christopher Demerit rounds out your top 5 with Joshua Chin, the last car on the league lap, in 6th. That was over as quickly as I said. Clean to the end. They all finished where they restarted there. No one able to get the advantage at all, but a good win for Matt Cook. His first victory in the 16th Street Racing League in that number 66 Aero X racing car, and he's doing the donuts.
Matt Cook did exactly what he needed to do. Good solid restart. Car didn't wiggle too much. He pulled away from Holgate, and Holgate unfortunately could not challenge for the win. And celebratory donuts, well deserved for Matt Cook, his first win, and he's definitely putting his stamp on this 16th Street League right now. Ovals are his forte, and he really owned it tonight. Very dominant win.
So there we are. It's race victory there for Matt Cook in the number 66 car. We'll run through your final race classifications in a moment. But this is really gonna open up the championship battle. And let's not forget as well, we've got 2 more ovals in a row to go. Twin Ring Motegi, where Matt Cook has been the dominant driver ever since they started racing at that racetrack. And then also we've got Phoenix in 2 weeks' time as well. This could be a tipping point for Matt Cook. If he can get himself going on the road courses, then he's got a good chance now to get himself into that championship battle.
Yeah, well, this is with the oval stretch here, it's a good time for him to build momentum. And I know he's been practicing a ton on those road courses, running his sim every chance he gets on the upcoming road courses. And he's improved a lot just in a little bit of time. So even if he just has a solid top 5, top 6 finish on the road course, doesn't run into any trouble, he's definitely going to be in the hunt for the championship all season long.
So then, to run through your final race classifications, and Matt Cook, in a time of under 1 hour, takes victory in the Richmond 160, presented by the Will and Dave Show, Fridays 4 p.m. Eastern, live on Glacier TV, also on iTunes. Tim Holgate comes home in the 2nd position, less than a quarter of a second back at the line. John Porzick comes home in the 3rd position. Courtney Town in 4th, Christopher Demerit in the 5th spot, and then Joshua Chin is the last guy on the lead lap with a high attrition rate in 6th. Joe Branch is scored the sole car 1 lap down. Then you have yourselves Matt Lamberton in 8th, James McClure in 9th, and Kevin Kress rounding out your top 10. The rest of the results will be up on your screen in just a moment's time. Driver of the race, go.
Obvious choice, but I think it's the right one. Matt Cook led the most laps. Car handled the best. Fastest guy out there. He's my driver of the race.
We will get ourselves some interviews in just a moment's time. But great victory there by Matt Cook. And in fact, we are going to bring him up into the commentary booth. Congratulations, Matt Cook, your first victory in the 16th Street Racing League.
Thanks, Will. It was a lot of fun and took a lot of work.
Took a lot of work. I know you've been practicing all week. Now, you've been able to run a very different line to a lot of these other drivers here, being able to run it all the way on the bottom without using up too much of your tyres. But at the same time, it does look as though that you weren't able to pull away on those first 5 or 6 laps. It took a little bit of time for that Aero X car to really get into gear.
Yeah, we kind of stumbled upon something that would allow us to run a more flexible line, really dive it down deep on the front stretch, and it also stayed loose enough to the point that we weren't really having to work our car throughout the entire run. At the same time, though, it did take a few laps for us to get the car settled in. It would get a lot of body roll and things like that going on until we actually got ourselves up to speed. The tires were warm.
Of course, you started this race here today in the fourth position. Not necessarily qualifying you were expecting. However, you're able to move yourself to the front of the field towards the middle stage of that race. And how was that long green flag run for you, not just in the car, but also working yourself through traffic as well?
Well, doing the long green flag runs, I mean, it flows for the most part. You don't really have to think about a whole lot. Just make sure that you're hitting your marks accordingly. Dealing with traffic, I mean, most drivers were very generous, providing plenty of room. I tried to give people a heads up if I was coming really, really low below them, and they might not have been able to see that. I mean, everyone was real good about it overall.
And then that final late race restart, we talked about this before. Cold tires, warm tires, low fuel, very easy for it to go wrong, but you're able to hold on and get that race victory. How satisfying is it?
It's very satisfying. I was a little bit worried about the final restart. I know that the boys from Panther Racing are definitely a little bit faster on their first few laps after their tires have cooled a little bit. So, I mean, Tim could have had a real good chance of pulling right up on me during that first lap and making the pass for the end.
And of course, you move yourself up into second place in the standings, and you'll be pleased to know as well, you are now guaranteed to be into the top 25 after Motegi. So that is going to be a weight off your shoulders over the next couple of weeks. But you're moving to Motegi, a track which you've been pretty dominant at in recent times. So I'm guessing you're looking forward to going over to Japan in 1 week's time.
I am very much. Kind of refresh myself and just kind of relax after this week, but I'll make sure that I'm prepared for that track as well.
Anyone you want to say thank you to?
To both AeroX and Banshee, my teammates have been extremely helpful over the week, putting a lot of time in, and also to all the other drivers that were very courteous during the race.
Well, that is Matt Cook coming home, first position in that number 66 AeroX racing car. He moves himself up into second in the championship standings, tied on point with Courtney Tell for that second position. Tim Holgate comes home second in the race, but you're going to have to say, Tim, overall, a good day. You qualified the race on pole, you led laps, getting yourself that second place finish, and, of course, you retain that championship lead.
Well, that's all right, Will. Let me start off by congratulating Matt on his first 16th Street League win. It was a great drive. He had basically the entire field covered by a good amount of pace. So, congrats to him for putting together a great car and a great drive. As far as the race goes, I mean, yeah, we got to be thrilled with anytime we come away with a podium finish and a good points haul with the pole. A little disappointed that we didn't have the pace to pull out the win. I thought the restarts we were a little bit sketchy on. If I had a better gearing and better traction on the restarts, I think I probably could have gave Matt a run for his money on that last restart. But the way it was, he pulled away, and there was just not enough time with those 2 laps to try and make a move.
But again, overall, it's been a good race, and of course, you were a little bit faster on those first parts of a fuel run. Were you thinking that if you got yourself a good restart, you might have been able to make a slingshot move down into the final corner, or was it just a case of take second, take the points, keep the championship lead?
I had a feeling that I might, on an off chance, be able to pull up if he had a bad restart or had a bobble, maybe I could pull alongside and at least threaten, but I don't think either of us wanted to end in tears in this race. So it's a good finish. We didn't want to take too much there, and I didn't really think we had the opportunity to make a move on him. Even though we were faster on the first couple laps, his car would run that inside line much tighter than anybody else, and that would make it very, very difficult to pass.
Now, of course, next week we head over to Japan to Twin Rin Motegi. It's a track that we've not really seen many of the Panther boys running at before. You going there with high expectations?
Well, that's one of the best drivers tracks for the higher speed ovals, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I always do pretty well on the tracks where the driver is in the driver's seat, so to speak. We're gonna have to work on our setup. I know that there's a couple other teams that have better cars overall, and we're gonna have to work to bridge that gap. And I'm hoping to put in another podium finish when we get there. Looking forward to the race in Japan.
Well, one done. Tim Holgate coming home in the second position in the number 6 Panther National Guard car. Coming home in the third position, the number 27 machine of John Porzek. John, you were able to get yourself through the field, getting yourself up into that third position after qualifying down in the 9th spot. Take us through your race.
It was definitely a race of a lot of ups and downs for me. The very first incident there, I got on the start, I was pinched down low on the bottom of 3 and ended up dropping a tire down onto the apron, and it was just enough to shoot the car sideways. And I know a bunch of guys checked up behind me, and I know a couple of my teammates got injured in that one as well. So, that was a tough way to start the race. But after that, we had the good long green flag run, and I knew that I had the pace to recover. So it was fun. I passed a lot of cars. I got up to P3 and figured that was about the top end of my potential for this race.
Were you thinking on that late race restart that you might have had something to get past Tim Holgate in that 6 car at all?
To be honest, the setup that we had this week was very fast once the tires were warm. But on those restarts, it was a handful. And honestly, when that last caution came out, I was just thinking survival mode. I just wanted to keep my podium finish at that point. I figured if maybe Tim had slid up a little bit on the start, I might have had something for him. But I was more content to just finish the race at that point.
And you got yourself a good finish as well, moving you up into joint 4th in the championship with Matt Lambertson. And so is that giving you good momentum as we head over to Motegi and then, of course, Phoenix in 2 weeks' time?
I think so. Motegi doesn't come as naturally to me as it might to Matt, but I think it's a good track. We've got a good setup there. I'm hopeful for next week.
And, of course, you're running the One and Dave show car today, so it looks like the One and Dave show is pretty much over.
Well,
but let's say when One and Dave curse even's over.
Right, the curse. I was worried that was going to get me, because when I was sideways on, lap 2, I was thinking, oh man, I should never put these logos on my car, but I was happy to bring it home in 3rd and hopefully get you guys some airtime.
Well, the curse isn't completely broke, because John caused a huge melee, and Josh Chin had a run-in with a lap car, so it's not quite broke yet. Maybe we're halfway there.
Halfway there, living on a prayer. We'll talk to Joshua about that in a moment. But Wadon Porzek coming home in the 3rd position in the Banshee Auto Sports even. One and Dave show car. We've got everyone here today. Courtney Tell, you came home in 4th place. Right there with Porzek at the line. And you've had a great battle again, coming up and down through the field after starting that number 18 IMS Productions car in the 6th position. It's that time the guy who's in the IMS Productions car isn't ready for the interview, isn't it?
Seems that he's having a bit of a technical issue. Hopefully we'll get that sorted out in a minute.
I will come back to Courtney in a moment, and we will, in the meanwhile, talk to Christopher Demerit. He came home in the 5th position in the Team Velociraptor car. Very quickly, by the way, we had 6 different teams represented in the top 6 places. I'll talk about that in a couple of moments' time. But Demerit, that 144 car came home in 5th. Again, it's been an up and down for you. It looks like you're very good on the start, but as the run progresses, it did look as though that Velociraptor car is just starting to slow down a tiny bit.
Right, we were having that issue for the whole week, and we were trying to work on it, and we got a little time off, but it was definitely the best at the beginning, which hurt us in the long run. But we made the most of it and made sure not to just to survive, I guess, because that's pretty much what Richmond is about.
Well, you qualified in 5th position. You had to run in a transfer race early on today as well, so you've been used to the start, to the restart, to everything. Do you think that running in the transfer race provided you with a bit of an advantage of knowing how the car is going to react in different positions here?
Yeah, I'd say it gave me an advantage in the sense that I already run long runs competitively, and with that pressure on me, I came in knowing Matt Cook was also in that transfer race, and I knew that he was going to be very, very quick. We didn't do any pit stops in the transfer race, so I still had to think about that. But for the most part, I was comfortable with what I was doing.
And fifth place as well in that 144 car. You've got to be thinking about keeping yourself in that top 25 to avoid running in the transfer races. You're currently in the 22nd position after today's race. Of course, you only run 2 races compared to some guys 3 races. Are you hoping now this is going to give you a good leapfrog as we go to Motegi in a week's time and then also to Phoenix in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, I certainly hope that I can keep up competitive finishes after the first week when I wrecked out in the first couple laps, received 0 points, and then drop week for last week, which I didn't own the track for. And then pretty much the rest of the schedule I'm comfortable with. I've raced there at least once. I'm looking forward to it overall.
Brisbane Merit in the 144 tar representing Team Velociraptor comes home in the 5th position. The guy who does all the production work has actually been able to finally plug his microphone in. Courtney Terrell, how you doing?
Good, sorry about that.
That's right. Again, you've had an interesting day, shall we say, in that number 18 IMS Productions car. You've been up, you've been down, you've had to work yourself through quite a bit of traffic. You come home 4th in the end. And you look so you've been one of those cars as well that's been good at the start and then fell off just a little bit as the longer runs progressed.
Yeah, first I'd like to thank my sponsors, IMS Productions, Hirons & Company, NBC Sports, and Mug and Bun Root Beer. Car was good, just not as fast as the guys in front of me. But I was happy with the 4th place finish, considering how many teammates they have. Could have been a lot worse.
And that car, you've had to overtake a lot of cars again. And again, we've seen you come through the field multiple times in the 16th Street Racing League. Is it just a natural skill that you've been able to work through the traffic in this race today?
Yeah, I like to think I'm better in race than I am in qualifying. I always work at race trim and then qualifying very last. But yeah, this one was kind of boring. Started 5th, finished 4th. Got behind Josh and a couple of the guys and worked my way past him and stayed there.
And then, of course, we're on that spout of the road courses now. You're one of the guys who's very good on both the road courses and the ovals. Going to Motegi in 1 week's time, going to Phoenix in 2 weeks' time. 2 tracks that I know you enjoy. You hoping to try and close that gap back to Tim Holgate now?
Yeah, hoping to. Motegi's a track I like. I haven't raced there much, but it's a fun track. Unfortunately, after that, Phoenix and I think Barber I'm going to have to miss because I'll be on a trip for work, but I'll be back after that for the rest of them.
You do know, by the way, that you're not allowed to mention IMS Productions or NBC Sports until you get me a job, right?
I'm working on it.
Just kidding. Congratulations, 4th place in that number 18 IMS Productions car. We've got everyone here. So this interview section is going to take longer than the race. Josh Chin, 6th place, 93 car. Well done. 6 teams represented in the top 6. You've had a very interesting day, actually, including having a couple of incidents with back markers, working through traffic, staying on the lead lap and finishing 6th. And, of course, getting yourself some valuable points after your snafu at Sebring.
Yeah, I was trying to forget that, and you just brought it back up. Thanks. But,
You're welcome.
it was a very entertaining race from my perspective, both from a driving and a viewer perspective. Well, yeah, it was definitely not what I had planned when we came in this week. I hadn't really had the chance to do much testing, and I was slow as a result. But salvage a 6th place finish out of that race was great, and to move up in the points is even better.
You move yourself up into 6th on the points. Now, of course, technically, the road courses should be where you get the advantage. So, getting yourself a nice, solid finish on the oval, you set yourself up for a good run as we've got 2 ovals coming. Are you expecting your bigger competition to be on the road courses or on the ovals this season? Because it does seem to be pretty competitive on both ends.
I think it could be a pretty mixed bag for the rest of the season. I think road courses is a lot more wide open than it used to be in previous seasons, and ovals, it's the same people every week that you got to beat, but they're hard to beat. Matt and Tim ran a really good race tonight, and even Courtney still tied for 2nd in points. we can't keep losing ground to those guys by finishing behind them. We have to go out there and beat them every week, no matter what track it is.
Coming home in the 6th position in this race, Joshua Chin and Joe Branch in the 7th position in the number 4 National Guard car. Now, Joe, first of all, it's been a pretty crazy week for you, of course. Back when you were racing 1 week ago, all the tornado and everything going on in Kokomo, good to know everything's going okay over there. But 7th place in this race today, only car scored 1 lap down, but a pretty good result and some much needed points, moving you up 13 positions up into 11th in the championship.
Yeah, that was a great day for points. Really, I just stayed on to talk to you, Will. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I want to thank National Guard Panther guys too. Tim Holgate, Niles Anders. Their setup of the car was amazing. Logged a lot of laps. Our whole team logged a lot of laps, so it was fun getting on track all week with those guys. We really like Richmond, so it was a fun race. That second stint, I saved enough fuel. I wasn't gonna have to stop again if that caution didn't come out. Things would have been interesting. That wouldn't have happened.
And of course, you started this race initially on the 2nd position. That's your best ever qualifying in the 16th Street Racing League. Clear track ahead of you. Was it exciting to get such a good start on, I know what has historically been one of your favorite tracks?
Yeah, it was, but to be honest, it was more nerve-wracking than anything because the whole time I just thought I was going to be out front. My internet was going to lag out again, so it was very nerve-wracking.
And of course, you say that position moving you up. It looks as though that you're pretty much secure to be in the top 25 as well, so long as nothing really goes amiss at Motegi. How satisfying is it to be the fact that you should not have to run the transfer races this season?
Yeah, it's good to get some points. I'm gonna go for wins on the ovals there. I went off strategy a little bit. Some of them, I can't beat them guys on speed, so try to win a race now and again. And if things work out, maybe I'll get one.
Well, that's the Will Vincent way, right?
You taught me.
Yeah, the Will Vincent way. Strategize, everyone. Well done. Coming home in the 7th position. Before we go, 2 things I want to talk to you about, Dave. In fact, you've got a question that you wanted to ask Matt Cook before we carry on.
Yeah, Matt, Dave here. I was just really curious how you were feeling on that final restart, knowing that you had a 2-lap shootout and, restarts are squirrely enough as they are. What were your thoughts going through your mind there?
Please, Mother of Mercy, don't allow me to over-accelerate and spin out and go into the grass, basically.
Fair point. Hey, you did a good job of that last restart. I know all the other guys I had been watching were pretty squirrely, so to hang on to that, get your first 16th Street win, quite an accomplishment, and I'm sure there'll be many more.
Thanks, Dave.
Dave, 2 things before we go off air that I want to talk to you about. First one,
yes, sir.
6 different teams represented in the top 6 here today. It's that thing on iRacing. It is a team sport in IndyCar, perhaps more than any other series, but 6 different teams represented. It shows just how wide open this series really is and how no one team. You look at qualifying, 3 Panther guys at the top. Look at the race, completely different story.
Well, at the end of the day, you still got to put your 2 hands on your sim wheel. You got to put your feet on the pedals, and you got to drive that car. You can't throw a brick on there and just let her roll around in cruise control. So talent will always shine through, and tonight is definitely proven because very competitive with 6 different teams finishing in the top 6. So that kind of debunks anything about teams just dominating things because that definitely did not happen tonight.
And also a number of big hitters out of the race here. You had Nefriago, of course, out very early. You had Martin Miller out very early in this race. And Randy Crosno, he had that incident towards the end of the race. He finished in the 16th position. These are guys who we were thinking would be top 5 contenders who are losing a lot of points early in the season. We talk about how you want to maximize your points now so that you don't have to take the risk later on in the season. Those guys might have to flip that strategy around now.
Yeah, you're going to have to make up some pretty big gaps because anybody below 25th scored no points. And, guys that were 20th, 25th scored barely any points anyway. So Guys are going to have to start getting aggressive next couple weeks to make up for some of these pretty big deficits. And qualifying, very important, because guys up front didn't get caught up in all that mess. And guys that were slow in qualifying, unfortunately, got taken out early.
Your top 10 in the championship. Tim Holgate now with a 17-point advantage leads away over Matt Cook and Courtney Tell, who are tied for points in second. John Porzik and Matt Lambertson, they are tied for points as well. They are scored 4th and 5th in the championship. Joshua Chin moves up 11 positions, now scored in 6th in the championship. Nefriarg loses 2 positions. He is 7th. Eric Davis in 8th. He is tied on points with Terry Mattinson. His teammate, Matt Kingsbury, rounds out your top 10. Your biggest gainer in the championship today, that is Stroh Branch, up 13 positions. Your biggest loser is Chris Cahill. He didn't take any part in today's proceedings. And as far as that top 25 bubble goes, it's Niles Anders on the inside, Brandon Troes on the outside looking in. In 1 week's time, the 16th Street Racing League and the iRaceForLife.org Oval Championship heads over to Japan to Twin Ring Motegi, the egg-shaped oval, which always causes so much great racing. And let's not forget, Dave, Danica won there.
Everybody have a drink for that, and that's Danica's only shining moment in her 12-year career. So, hey, if you want to be like Danica, go win next week's race.
So we'll be back same time, same place for that, for the 4th round of the 16th Street Racing League, the 3rd round of the iRaceForLife.org Oval Championship. It will be the 2nd of 3 oval races in a row. Can Holgate continue to eke out that championship advantage? Can Matt Cook score back-to-back victories and start closing that gap? Can Courtney Tell and John Porzik come back from good races here today? It's all going to be found out in 7 days' time here on iRacing Brazil. Don't forget, the iRaceForLife.org Oval Championship is brought to you by iRaceForLife.org. $5 goes to the race winner and donated to iRaceForLife.org, their favourite charity. Matt, who's your favourite charity?
I'll go with Orphan Secure.
Orphan Secure getting $5 there through the partnership with 16th Street Racing League and iRaceForLife.org. Don't forget, this race today was also brought to you by the Will and Dave podcast, 4 p.m. Eastern, live and exclusive on Glacier TV and also on iTunes. For myself, Will Vincent, from Dave Judson and Raphael Sank on cameras, this has been a iRacing Brazil production of the 16th Street Racing League from Richmond International Raceway. Matt Cook took a deserved victory here today, his first win in the series. However, Tim Holgate coming second. He continues that championship charge. And who says that this isn't a fascinating series? 6 guys, 6 different teams, and we're heading over to one of the toughest ovals of them all. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
From Team Target. All the best to everybody at iRacing Brazil.
Silvestro, and I hope all the iRacers in Brazil are having a lot of fun on iRacing.
Hi, I'm Justin Wilson. I want to say hello to all the iRacers down in Brazil. Hope you have fun, enjoy the racing, take it easy.
Hey, I'm Wyatt Gooden, and iRacing Brazil, awesome league. You guys are great, cool league.
Quero mandar abraço aí pro pessoal do iRacing Brasil. Continue jogando aí.
Aí galera, eu sou o Hélio Castro Neves, fique ligado no iRacing Brasil. Vamos lá, Brasil. Vamos lá.